All right, Brandy, on this particular problem, you have a binomial x to the fourth minus 16, and you are going to check to see if it is a difference of squares. So you're going to ask, is there anything squared that would equal x to the fourth minus something squared is equal to 16, and that would be x squared and x squared. And 4. So what we're going to do at that point is we're going to go ahead and take that particular part and factor using a difference of squares. We know that since it is a difference of squares, it can be factored as a sum and a difference. And the sum would be x squared plus 4, and the difference would be x squared minus 4. Okay, we can now look at the binomial x squared minus 4, and it also is a difference of squares. So I could factor it as x plus 2 times x minus 2. Now, x squared plus 4 cannot be factored because that is the sum of two squares. So what we would have to do is we are going to have to find the complex factors of x squared plus 4. So we are going to take x squared plus 4. We're going to set it equal to 0, and we are going to solve. When I take the square root of both sides, we know we have to include both a positive and a negative root, and we're going to get x is equal to positive negative 2i, because we cannot take the square root of a negative number. So I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to take x is equal to 2i, and I'm going to find its factor. So you would have x minus 2i equals 0, and I'm going to take x equals negative 2i and work backwards to find the factor, and it's going to be x plus 2i. Therefore, factored, this would become x minus 2i times x plus 2i times x plus 2 times x minus 2. So what we have to do is we have to factor the binomial that's a difference of squares, and then the factor that is left, x squared plus 4, we have to solve that to find out what x is equal to and work backwards to get the factors. So this would be x minus 2i times x plus 2i times x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right, on the second example that you sent me, f of x equal x to the fourth minus 3x cubed minus 7x squared minus 9x minus 30, what we're going to do is we are going to type this into Desmos. And when I type this in, it's going to be y is equal to x to the fourth power minus 3x to the third power minus 7x squared minus 9x minus 30. And we can find that it crosses, and let me go back up here and put in 30. It crosses at helps if you type the problem incorrectly. All right, it crosses at -2 and it crosses at 5. So we know that x equal negative 2 is a factor, or is a solution, and we know that x equal 5 is a solution. So that means that we have the factor x plus 2, and we have the factor x minus 5. Now on the not only do negative 2 that x is equal to 5 is a factor. Slide, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take my problem, my original problem, and because negative 2 is an intercept, is a solution, I'm going to perform synthetic division with negative 2. When I do that, I'm going to list the coefficients. I have 1, negative 3, negative 7, negative 9, negative 30. Bring down the 1, multiply 1 times negative 2, and add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. So we get a remainder of 0. That tells me that now I have x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 15. I know that x is equal to was a factor, but I also know, so I'm now going to do synthetic division using the factor 5. We have 1, negative 5, 3, and negative 15. Okay, I bring down the 1, I multiply, I add to get 0, I multiply, I add to get 3, I multiply, I add to get a remainder of 0. So now my problem is x squared plus 0x plus 3, or just x squared plus 3. All right, we are going to now try to factor that. So I'm going to take this, x squared plus 3, and I'm going to set it equal to 0, and I'm going to solve it. So I get x squared equal negative 3. I take the square root of both sides, and I have to do positive, negative. So I get x is equal to positive, negative, square root of negative 3. We know that we have to break that negative down as the square root of negative 1 times 3. So this is going to be x is equal to positive negative I times the square root of 3. So to get my factors, I am now going to take what I have as my solutions, and I had x is equal to negative 2, I had x equals 5, I have x is equal to positive negative I times the square root of 3. So working backwards, I'm going to get x plus 2. Work backwards, I'm going to get x minus 5. And I have to break these apart. I'm going to do x is equal to positive I times the square root of 3. So I'm going to subtract I times the square root of 3. And it's going to give me x minus I times the square root of 3 equals 0. And then I'm going to take x equal negative I times the square root of 3. And I'm going to add I times the square root of 3. And I get x plus I times the square root of 3 equal 0. Therefore, I have 4 factors. I have x plus 2. I have x minus 5. I have x minus I times the square root of 3, and I have x plus I times the square root of 3. So this problem factored would be f of x would be equal to x plus 2 times x minus 5 times x plus I times the square root of 3 times x minus I times the square root of 3.